Welcome to another chapter in the Advanced Project Management Certification. Once again, I'm your host, Ibby Taylor. And now we're looking at comms, communication and communication management. So communication management is the lifeline of any successful project. It governs the flow of information between stakeholders, project teams and external entities, ensuring that the right message reaches the right people at the right time. Communication is not just about sharing updates. It encompasses building trust, clarifying exceptions and streamlining coordination across multifunctional teams. To summarise this, communication is probably the most important part of any project. You can plan, you can manage, you can do everything right, and if you don't communicate, it can still go wrong. But on the flip side, even if your planning and management is a little bit lackluster and you haven't planned for anything, with effective communication, you can normally get around anything. Communication is key. Communication is king. It is so important and so vital. It cannot be understated. Some key points. Communication management revolves around three essential components that ensure the smooth flow of information. Planning communications. This involves identifying stakeholders, their information needs, and scheduling appropriate delivery methods. Tailoring communication according to the audience's preferences ensures clarity. This can be anything from your weekly project reports, daily stand-ups with the customer, anything that you're doing on that project. Whenever you're communicating with stakeholders, it's important to understand and tailor your approach. Tailor your approach to the project, but tailor your approach to everything within the project. We've spoken about tailoring time and time again. Build your own approaches. Take the framework, take the overarching information that you're gaining here and tailor it when you need it. For example, when launching a marketing campaign, senior executives might require concise summaries, while creative teams need detailed task descriptions. A project manager will use communication matrix to document the needs and streamline the flow of information. Different stakeholders want different things. They care about different things. The financial team cares about the budget report. They care about the cost. The marketing team doesn't. The dev team cares about knowing exactly what the scope is and exactly what tasks they need to do. And then on the other side of the fence, the stakeholders on the company side, they care about your weekly status updates. They care about what's going on, what's going wrong, what are you doing to fix it, are you still on track, how's it going in line with budget and timeline. Everyone requires different information. You need to manage those communications, so the active phase where information is collected, created and shared. The process ensures all updates, feedback and deliverables are documented and distributed effectively. So, for example, during a university online learning portal project, the manager assigns roles for sending weekly progress email updates to stakeholders and maintaining clear documentation in project management tools. And then you monitor. So you ensure consistent feedback loops, verifying whether the intended message is understood and acted upon. It allows managers to tweak the methods for more effective communication. What you do at the start of the project doesn't always need to be, and most often, it's not what you do at the end of the project, because it's so fluid. Things are agile. We've spoken about agile a lot, being fluid, being flexible, and reacting to changing situations and constraints and variables as you deliver the project. So, after distributing a project status report to contractors, the manager hosts a Q&A to clarify any ambiguities and collect feedback, ensuring that everyone is aligned. But what is also good to that is if you do have an open forum, you do have a Q&A, ask for feedback. Say, look, I've sent out a status report. Did you understand it? Did it have everything that you need within that status report? Or do I need to change the framework that I'm using to create those status reports? Do I need to change the template? Is there more or less information that you want to see? Key strategies. Tailoring the medium to the message. Communication mediums should suit both the message and the audience. Choose textual formats for detailed heavy reports and go for visual formats for conceptual overviews. So for example, a retail store expansion project uses AutoCAD software to share visual layouts with staff. Inventory updates are sent in concise emails to avoid confusion. Understand the message that you're trying to deliver. Is it visual? Is it factual? Is it information heavy? Is it on a spreadsheet? Is it a picture? What is it that you're trying to really get across? and what's the best medium for that message. Open feedback mechanisms. This is key. Creating environments where team members or stakeholders feel safe to express concerns fosters collaboration and prevents misunderstandings. Methods like anonymous surveys or direct feedback mechanisms can be used. Anonymous surveys are great. They are very good because it allows people to express their opinions without fear of repercussions. A lot of people don't trust that surveys are actually anonymous, and in some cases maybe that's true. But if they are anonymous, it allows open and honest feedback, even to the highest level. If someone is truly anonymous, someone in the trenches, on the at the coalface, at the bottom of the company, will be very direct, blunt and honest to the CEO. And within that feedback, that honest feedback, comes valuable information. And then streamline the communication channels. Avoid overloading teams. Limit the tools to core platforms for specific functions. Minimize the gaps in updates, ensuring information continuity. Constant flow of information, but make sure it's relevant, it's not too much, and it's correct. For a global marketing campaign, a project manager standardizes comms on 2 tools: Zoom for weekly calls, and Trello for real-time task updates to keep all the teams aligned. Everyone can see the information. Trello is a task board, but it's also a method of communication and a conduit for information, because that information is: where are the tasks at? How far are we along with this project? What's going on? That is still information that can be communicated to people through a task board. And then you have Zoom for weekly calls, weekly stand-ups, to show overarching progress, and make sure that everyone understands where they are. Any questions, any queries, any blockers, any issues, use these open forums to your advantage. Now, barriers to successful communication. This is going to be important. So, cultural and language barriers. Very difficult if you're running international projects and global teams. So, diversity in global teams calls for culturally sensitive communication. Misunderstandings caused by language nuances and etiquette should be anticipated and addressed. So, a virtual humanitarian aid team develops region-specific communication protocols with culturally adapted responses to prevent offending local partners. Brilliant thing to do. Superb. If you have localized resource in a certain area that has a good grasp of 2 languages, use that, because something you might see as non-offensive in one language, you directly translate it to another language and it might not come across the same way. So it can be difficult, but make sure that you try and plan for that if you know that you're going to be working internationally. Information overload is always a big one. Sharing excessive or irrelevant information can overwhelm stakeholders. Obscuring critical updates. Simplifying the message enhances clarity. Especially prevalent among newer project managers is the desire to sometimes do too much, especially with the communication, with the reporting. You just try and flood the channel with information, and that's exactly what it does. It floods it, and it's difficult to see what message is actually trying to come across. You might be running a project which needs one clear, concise weekly status update, but instead you're getting daily updates with paragraphs of text, and it's too much. You don't know what's going on. Technological limitations. Over-dependence on a single channel, especially for high priority information, can lead to breakdowns when that medium fails. So an IT team handling data restoration prioritizes both email alerts and workplace channels like Teams to safeguard critical updates during outages. Always good to have resiliency, always good to have a backup method of communication. And whenever I'm working on a project, everything formal should go by email. There's a chain, there's a paper trail, it's documented, it's formal, it's recorded, perfect. But you've also got things like Teams, you've also got things like Slack. Teams has gone down before. It is known to fail, in which case I went for WhatsApp. But even that has been known to fail, and you might have to just use standard phone calls. Always try and have a backup method of communication for internal and external stakeholders. Tools and techniques. So you can use things like this. Real-time collaboration tools. Slack, Teams, Zoom. It's instant. You're there, you're talking, you're communicating backwards and forwards. Particularly for geographically dispersed teams. Multinational construction projects use Teams for joint updates across sites, ensuring every team remains informed of schedule changes. It's so easy now. We live in such a technologically forward world that there are so many mediums to access information and communicate instantly. So there's almost no excuse for not doing it nowadays, whether it's Teams, even WhatsApp, Slack, whatever you choose to use. Need to make sure that people are informed. Task-specific platforms, Jira, Trello, help track task process. That's a progress. That's difficult. Jira and Trello help to track the progress of your tasks, maintain transparency and ensure accountability. You've also got, the likes of Asana, of ConnectWise, of Salesforce, things where you can see these tasks moving in a lifetime environment. So a software dev team employs Jira to manage task backlogs, assigning efforts to developers and providing automated progress reports. Brilliant. Visualization through dashboards. This is becoming increasingly popular. And tools like Power BI especially and Tableau enhance understanding by presenting complex data in charts and graphs. Not everyone can understand complex data sheets. Some people are very logical, very numerically minded, very data conscious and can look at a spreadsheet and analyze it pretty quickly. Some people can't. But if you put that into a visual aid, put that into a graph, a chart, a diagram, something to show visually what you're trying to explain with the information, helps massively. Visualize what you're trying to do. That also caters to a wider range of people to ensure there's no misunderstanding of the information you're trying to get across. So maximize impact. The teach back method. It involves asking recipients to summarize or explain the received information to confirm understanding. So during ERP implementation, departmental heads are asked to demonstrate workflows to validate training effectiveness. It's all about the recall of information. We've spoken about this on this course itself. Teach back is recall the information. Let's go through this course. Let's get to the end, and at the end of this chapter, just like every other chapter, practice questions. Recall it. Bring that information back to the surface. Show that you've learnt it and you've embedded it. Daily status updates. Crucial in fast-paced projects where goals or conditions frequently change. Massively prevalent in things like software development. Daily stand-ups every single day. Very fast-paced. What are you working on? Are there any blockers? Agile teams in a software project. There you go. I didn't even know that was coming. Conduct daily stand-ups to address progress blocks and align efforts. And then retrospective analysis for improvement. After project delivery phases, teams assess successes and challenges, integrating lessons into the next cycle. So after a corporate event, the project team reviews feedback and discusses miscommunication issues to refine future event planning protocols. That comes back to lessons learned. And I keep touching on how important it is to take your lessons learned at the end of each project. Look at what you did poorly. Look at what you did well. What issues came about? What risks came about? What did you do to manage them? How can you do it better? Take the lessons learned. Digest them. Pour through them. And then when you do it again, learn from it. And things will just get better and better and better. So aligning tools. Each communication objective, whether to inform, instruct or resolve, requires nuanced application of tools and strategies. So to inform, things like Gantt charts, summary emails, provide stakeholders with concise updates. Or to collaborate, things like Miro, Google Drive, SharePoint. Allow for team brainstorming and shared documentation, fostering co-creation. Get the whole team working in the same space, even if they're not in the same place. Use the same virtual space, a virtual board. Get them collaborating and working together. And also resolving issues. Conflict resolution or miscommunication requires open discussion through potentially face-to-face or video meetings. Obviously face-to-face is always better, especially when it comes to conflict resolution. And when you're trying to, fix miscommunication issues, of course, being face-to-face with someone is always better. But sometimes you do have to set off a video, especially with teams that are potentially segmented in different areas, sometimes different time zones. but is still a good medium for doing that. So a little bit of practical guidelines for beginners. Make sure you're on top of this. Document everything, record your communication, trace back misunderstandings, project decisions or task details. This is why it's good for a lot of things, especially the official, important, formal things, put it on email. If you give someone a call, for example, and your calls aren't recorded, back it up with an email, because then there is a paper trail which is timed and date stamped as to when and why, what was said, everything is on there, and the paper trail exists should you need to go back through it. Engage stakeholders regularly, so regular interactions keep all parties invested and aligned with project goals. And then leverage emotional intelligence. This is a big one. So mastering emotional intelligence helps managers intuitively gauge stakeholders' needs, adapting messages effectively. Now, emotional intelligence obviously isn't something that comes naturally to all people, but it is something you can get better at. And especially as a project manager, this is something that will improve. The more you communicate with people, the more you deal with people, the better this will get over time. Now, applications, again, there are 10 of these. We're not going to go through all of these. I'll go through the first one with you. And then you go through the rest and think about the strategy that was used, the communication that was used in order to give the outcome. So, agile development, sprint communication. So a software team working on a mobile application struggles with delays due to unclear task ownership. Nobody knows who's doing what. Very common. So Scrum methodology and Slack for real-time communication, and then Jira as a task board for task tracking and assigning tasks to the right people at the right time. So daily stand-up meetings were introduced where each team member shares their progress, tasks and blockers. What are you working on? What are you doing? How's it going? Have you got any blockers? What are you working on next? Assign clear task owners in Jira, flagging complete items for discussion during those retrospectives. That led to an improved clarity in task ownership. People knew what they were doing. Consistent sprint completion. Things got done on time and reduced miscommunication delays. Got the project back on track with effective communication. Now, go through, have a look at these other scenarios. Just pay close attention to the communication, how it was leveraged, how the communication was brought into the project and how it was used for the benefit of the project. Have a look through, and this should help your understanding. You've then got the summary tables. Go through these and double check your understanding on the key points around communication and communication management. Then when you've got the end of this, as always, it is time for some practice questions. Go through these, test your own knowledge, see what you've learned, see if you've got the understanding of communication management and why it's good. If you do struggle, of course, come back through, watch this video, listen to this again, have a read through of the subject matter again. If you still continue to struggle, of course, as I always say, just reach out to you. We are here for your support and your benefit. But go do those practice questions, see how you get on. As always, I'm Taylor, and I'll see you for the next one.